Welcome back to another episode of We Are Human. I'm your host, Elijah, and today I am here with the one and only Alejandra Tobo.
Hey.
We also have some pressed juices that were made by her.
And my sister. Shout out, Laura.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for this. On top of that, we also have some art pieces by her.
My mom was always very crafty. Like we were always doing very hands-on DIY type of things. Like whenever we were growing up, just me and my sister, that was like our little playtime things would be like a lot, very like art centered. As we got older, she like had us do some art classes. We would go to like ceramics places. Like, I don't know, it was kind of something I feel like that she always made it fun and made it enjoyable. So now it's something that is like a part of me, like that I'm like, I do it more for my like sanity, my peace of mind, my, you know. So, and it's cool that now I can like make some money off of it too. Like I never expected to make money off of my artwork. I feel like I was like, and even now I think that's part of the reason why I struggle with like pricing and all that stuff.
Is it ever kind of like a bittersweet feeling letting go of a piece that means a lot to you, but someone is willing to pay that much money like
Definitely.
For it?
I feel like, so my first ever show, or like it was at Hanau. It was like Sarah actually put me onto that show. Unfortunately, honestly, that was like the most I ever made at a show like that, like where you have like a table and you have all your prints there. Like I remember making I almost made $200 that day, and I was like, damn, like okay,
yeah, that's not
like,
bad.
That's not bad. And for my first time I was like, okay. Like that day I sold 2 originals, and honestly I think it was like near the end of the night. I had some drinks in me. I was like, I kind of just wanted to end the interaction type thing with somebody that wanted to talk about my art and pricing, and I didn't even expect to like sell originals that night, so I was like not even thinking about it. And then he was like, he was asking me how much it was for one of my pieces. It was like on a wood panel. It was kind of like this, but they weren't square. It was like a rectangular piece. I ended up selling 2 originals for $80. So that kind of broke my heart, because it was one of the pieces that like I was really feeling at the time. It was like one of my more recent pieces, and it's like when I first started working on wood panels, and I love painting on wood panels just because it's like so smooth. It's very, even though it's a little bit harder because they're like much drier than painting on canvas, and originally it was a little bit harder for me. You can like get details that sometimes the texture of a canvas doesn't let you get.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a little heartbreaking. But I feel like ever since then, I haven't sold much originals, honestly. Most of my things that I've sold are like either commissions or prints.
Right.
So I think part of it is my attachment to stuff, and then I'll like price them really high, and then I don't know, I just need to work on that. It's price stability and learning how to price my stuff correctly.
I want to talk about this piece that you have here today.
Yes.
You submitted it for a contest. It was one of your favorite pieces at a time. Talk about the contest, and you know, like the overwhelming support from your friends. I know I saw that on so many people's stories. And how did it push you to like grow as an artist like afterwards? So
I submitted that into a contest. It was on Pixels. That's what it was on. And it was basically like if you had to get 200 votes to qualify to get like even get into the competition. Yeah. And then if you won, then you would have like a whole billboard in LA with your artwork on it. I just started asking like all my friends, like just reaching out to people. My mom went in. My mom, you already know, she went on Facebook. She was like sending it to everybody. I don't even know how many votes I ended up getting, but it wasn't 200. So that was like also like me thinking it was gonna be easier than it actually was to get the votes. Me like kind of like being let down, that like seeing, because you could also see the other artwork that like people like seeing that other artists had gotten the votes, so they're like I'm like seeing that other people qualify, which honestly doesn't matter. Like I should have just been focusing on me. Yeah, it was a learning experience, definitely. And even though I didn't get the 200 votes, it was a lot of support, and like yeah, like what you said, like a lot of my friends like posted it multiple times, even like friends of friends, like my mom sending it to all those people. Like a lot of them didn't know like that I made art, like that type of thing. Like it opens doors for conversation, so that's always cool. What have been like the struggles of balancing time management, because it's not easy for anybody? I feel like I've never had the best relationship with time anyways, because I think just being Colombian, I don't know, maybe just Hispanics in general, we tend to be late to everything. Not thinking about like, oh, I can do this later. Like being like, okay, if I think about doing something, I'm going to try to do it now. Easier said than done, obviously. But with school, I guess when I'm in school, I also balance how much art I do. The weird thing is that if I'm in like, especially like the science classes that I really like, so like physiology, anatomy, neurobiology, immunology, all those ologies, like I love it. And I feel like that's a huge source of my inspiration. So it's weird because once I like dive into that, then now I'm like super inspired and I want to like do a painting about one of those topics or like include that in one of my pieces. And sometimes I don't always have time. So
no, of course.
I don't know. It's just kind of like also prioritizing what it is that has to be done now, and then creating like lists or like stuff that I can kind of go back to and be like, oh, I thought about this idea back in March or something, and now I didn't have time then, but now I can come back to it. My goal is to be a surgeon, so that my fears, like I just hearing from other medical students that they're like, well, we don't have time for shit. Like we don't have time for anything. We are just studying. So I went to this like medical student question Q&A panel thing, and I asked them, I was like, so tell me about your time. Like tell me about like what is it like they're like, obviously it is a lot of studying, it is a lot of dedication, you do have to make a lot of sacrifices and sacrifice parts of like your social life, your family life, but whatever you are really passionate about or whatever like you feel like you really need to do, like you can make time for it. And I feel like that really comforted me. And also I don't know, I think I'm already kind of doing that, so I hope I can just get better at doing that, you know. I'm not the best still, but we're trying out here. It's okay. Like,
no, of course.
I've always been really close to my sister. Like, we're a year and a half apart, so we've always been like best friends, do everything together. Like, I think I was in like 8th grade or something, and my parents sent her away to a boarding school. So she was gone for like a total of almost a year or something. I didn't get to say bye to her, and I never didn't get to talk to her. Like the first couple months, I couldn't even write to her, but I didn't know how much that was gonna like impact me until I was like going through it, and I was like, oh my god, like this was really intense just to like be without her and like know that it's not like she wanted to leave. Like it was like my parents were like, all right, we got to do something. So that was like really hard, but that also helped me grow a lot as and like just like learning to be by myself. And that like learning to be by yourself, I feel like is the best gift or blessing that you can give yourself. And I think if you don't have that comfort in being by yourself and like enjoying that time by yourself, it makes it like 1,000 times harder. A lot of times I feel like people can't enjoy being by themselves because they're like forced to face themselves in that moment. That's a
rabbit hole. That's a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Like just being afraid of who you truly are, or just figuring out who you are, or your demons. And I think it's harder for like certain people. Like, I don't know, it's a very complex thing when you really are trying to break it down, but I do think that it's a gift, like once you get there. So I think it's like an especially important moment to take that time for yourself, whatever it is that you need. Like if for you it's running, like it could be yoga is like fucking amazing. Yoga makes you feel so good and it takes away any pain that you have. Or like if it's creating, if it's anything that you have for you to help you through whatever it is that you're experiencing, I feel like it's like extra important right now. Yeah,
just taking care of the physical, the mental, all like aspects of yourself and of other people, like all of that. It's like so important. We tie self-love and self-esteem to like self-image a lot, and like especially when I was in high school, I think every person, I think women maybe are like seen in this more, but I think men also struggle with the same thing of like body image and like issues with that, not feeling like you're like good enough, or like not feeling like you're beautiful, or like those type of things. I feel like would impact my own view of myself, my self-esteem, my inability to like have self-love. Like we have so much more to offer than like just our self, like physical self.
Yeah.
And I think you like feed your self-image or like self-esteem and that with so many different things, and you just have to like stop downplaying yourself. I think a lot of people downplay themselves, like downplay maybe what they deserve, what they are capable of, to the point that it limits us.
Yeah. Kind of reminding yourself of like, you, for example, like you are an artist. Like not everybody is an artist. That makes you that already.
And that's something I was like afraid to say before. Like I'm like what qualifies me to be an artist? Like who told me I'm an artist? Like, and you don't need somebody to tell you you're anything.
Yeah.
To be something, you know, like I don't know. I was always like when I was in high school, I was hesitant to be like, yeah, I'm an artist. Now I'm like, yeah, bitch, I'm an artist. I'm like,
yeah, embrace it.
Now
You
it, like,
have to embrace it, because that's like the way that you really like essentially embrace yourself. You know, full on. We
think that there's like this fine line between like being egotistical and like being confident.
Yeah.
And you can be confident without being egotistical. Like you don't have to. I don't think that's something that we should worry about. Like I think we should, if we're just focusing on our attributes and like what we like about ourselves, that's like you're not being self-centered.
Yeah, like your qualities. When
yeah,
I think when you start to be like condescending to other people, that's when your pride is really.
It's not about I'm better than you. It's not about like treating people differently because I'm above you, or like those type of things. I think that's when it becomes dangerous, and that's when it becomes like ugly. Like what are you like you could have, and that's why I love like humble people. Like I'm like, you have all this knowledge or like all this money or all this power, whatever it is that they have that maybe I don't have. At the end of the day, like we're all just people. Like we're all just like we're communicating. Even like now with like social media, how
the truth is there's no validation, you know, like and with every single thing, materialistic things and tangible things, whatever, like it's all temporary, you know, like when we pass, like that's it, you know, like you don't take that
just
with
like
you.
Everybody else, like nobody takes that with them.
So it's so strange how that kind of like plays a factor into how we like consume and process like social media and information and media in general. But it happens, like it really does, like subconsciously or anything, and it's just like, oh, like I lost a follower, like well, who cares, like I found myself saying that, but then like again I have to correct myself and be
or
like,
even when like you're somebody that you like know, maybe like an acquaintance or something unfollows you and now you're offended, like
it's just like I thought we were cool
with me. I thought we were cool. And it's like it's really like not about us.
What are some ways or how do you see yourself kind of making like a positive impact in the community in general?
Being able to like listen to people and react to people's needs and stuff, I think that is something that I could do, that I could be part of. And the whole reason why I do want to go into surgery is because I feel like surgery is like very hands-on and it's very much an art. Like just even my perception of what medicine was when I was little was definitely like, oh, it's a science. It's if I get sick, I'll go to the hospital, go to a clinic or something. They have a pill or like some type of treatment and I'm good. Like they know exactly what to do. And that might be the case for some cases, but there's still, it's very much an art in that it's not necessarily set in stone. Every doctor has their own prerogative that they're going to act on, their own set of experiences that are going to make them act a certain way. And I don't know, like the impact that emotions have in that setting, I think is like super important. I read this book, it's called What Doctors Feel. And it was really interesting because it was like a part of medicine that you don't think about, how doctors' emotions and feelings about the work that they do affects patient care. So like maybe if the doctor is feeling burnt out, has gotten like lawsuits, they're angry, they're depressed, how is that going to affect my care individually? And they do find that it does play a huge role. And I think often surgeons especially are seen as like these very cold people, like we're just gonna like cut you up, like no big deal, everything's fine. But it's not. Like I think emotions always play a role regardless of like your profession or whatever, but they're especially important when it's like life or death type things. So just like being aware of that, being aware of disparities, whether they're like in health literacy is like a major one. Most people aren't health literate. In communities of color, Black people, Black women specifically, are like really underrepresented and like mistreated, especially in like the field that my dad is in obstetrics and gynecology. And also seeing how like everything that we've learned is kind of centered, like just like in any area, history, whatever, it is centered on like the white experience. And like I saw recently, my sister sent me this thing of this doctor in his like second year of school in London, who like wrote a book about presentations of like different diseases and stuff on black skin, something that you don't like, you see it sometimes in textbooks, but it's not like the usual, and it presents very different. So like for doctors to miss a diagnosis, like for example a melanoma, like skin cancer,
okay,
that they see it on a white person easily identifiable, on a black person it might be harder to identify. So the rate that black people are dying from skin cancer, like they have a lower survival rate than white people, basically, because they catch it later, it's already done, it's like more damage. So like those type of things, like just being aware of where are the disparities and what are we going to do to address them.